Welcome back to the Richest YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful cupped transparent dartless corset that we have here. I'm going to be using a ready-made cup for this. I made it a custom-made cup. I achieved it through bust caging method, and the tutorial on how I did it is already linked as well. So if you don't know how to do this, you can check it out. So this is a packed tutorial. You are going to learn how I was able to cut and sew this in this tutorial. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, this is a dartless transparent corset. So for this, I'm going to be using my corset mesh to create this. You can also use your original tool net. So this is a corset mesh. It's sold in tailoring stores and it comes in different colors. If you want to use a skin tone color like this, it has great. So it comes in different skin tone, so you can get that. That's what I'm going to be using. I will also use this crepe for the cup and the bone channels, and I'm using this Regina boning. You can also use a plastic bone if that is what you want, but this is what I'm going to be using for this tutorial. I'm going to use this hairstay to strengthen the crepe, and lastly I'm going to be using my cup. So the cup I'm using is like a homemade cup. It's not a ready-made cup. That's because I want it to have full coverage. This corset that I'm making is for a big bust, I can see. So with this, I can actually decide how exactly I want my cup to be. So I use the bust caging method and fiber to create this cup, and the detailed tutorial on how I was able to draft, sew, apply fiber and everything to get this cup is already uploaded. So I'm just going to put the link in the description box if you want to know how to do this. So this is what I'm going to be using to create my corset, because like I said, it's a dartless corset. It's not going to have a dart. So I'm just going to place my cup to create the corset cup that I need on this pattern. So this is my pattern. I've already marked out my important points. This is my armhole line, this is my bust point, this is my under bust, this is my waistline, and this is the full blouse length. Okay, so now this is very simple because like I said, it does not have any dart. It's just going to be like creating your basic bodies, and then you just create your bust cup on it, just like we normally do for our basic bodies. Okay, so you can do the bust cup first, or you can just mark out your circumference measurements. For me, I'm going to divide my bust measurements by 4, and then I'm going to mark that. Here I'm going to divide my under bust by 4 as well, and then I'll mark that. I'll divide my round waist by 4. I'm going to mark that, and then on the blouse length I'm going to divide my upper hip by 4, and then I'm going to connect that as well. So all these points that I have marked, I'm going to go ahead and connect them. So whatever snatching that you want to do on your waistline, you must have done the calculation before you do this, because we're not going to be redoing it with that like we did for the Victorian corset. So if you want to know how you can calculate your snatching, I have a detailed tutorial on that already on the channel. So you can check the corset that we did, the Victorian corset tutorial that we did. So you can check that and you have more understanding about that. So now I have connected everything together. So on the hem here, because I don't want it flat, I'm just going to come up by around 1 inch, and then I'll connect that to the hemline just to give it a curve. It's not compulsory, it makes it finer. So now I am done with that. So the next thing now is, so I've already drawn my armhole line with a pencil, but I'm just going to place this so that I can make it bolder. If you are not working with a yoke, you can just start from around your armhole measurement. But in case you want to draft your yoke together with it, you may need to work with a full bodice like this. So the next thing is to bring in my cup and then place it where I want it to be. But first I need to know the length that I want for the depth that I want for my corset. So here I think around 10 inches is fine for me for the depth. So for the spacing that will be in between each of the cups, depending on what spacing that you want, you can work with 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So if you're working with 1 inch, because this is a half body, you're going to divide that by 2 and mark. If you're working with 1.5 inches, you divide that by 2 as well and mark. So here I think I'm working with 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to mark that. So that is going to guide me in placing my corset. So now I'm going to bring in the corset and then use it to draw out my cup. So this is my cup. Now I'm going to be placing the cup on the under bust and then match this part, the center front part of the cup, to this depth that I want. So this cup is an homemade cup, like I said, and it has seam allowance. I've already turned it, so I have my seam allowance here already. So I don't want to mark the seam allowance together with it. So if you can fold it in like this before placing it, if you are able to do that, it's fine. But for me, I'm just going to draw it with a pencil. So with the pencil, I'll be able to just go in where my actual cup is. Okay, you can see all of this are the seam allowance, about 1/2 inch. Okay, you can see these are the seam allowance. So I'll just like raise it up like this and then use my pencil to mark it out. Then after that, I'm going to make it bolder. So if you want to place the cup, if you don't want your corset to turn out flat by the time you are done, so when you are placing it, try to just the way you want it to be. You try to just mold the cup the exact same way you want it to be. And bear in mind, like I said, that this pattern I already snatched. This is not the actual waist of the person. I've already reduced the waist to what I want it to be, because there is no dart in it. So I'm not going to be using any dart to snatch it. So now you can see the way I'm placing my corset. So after placing the corset, I'm going to take my pencil and then I'll sort of manage to mark around the cup with my pencil. So after marking around the cup with my pencil, you can see that I'm lifting my seam allowance up, so I can see what I did here roughly. So I'm going to take my ruler here and then I'm going to make it bolder so that we can see what I have done here. If you are using a ready-made cup will not have allowances like this has, so you can just work with it directly. But this is not a ready-made cup, so I'm just going to mark it out like that. You can also use your marker to mark it out. You can see all these lines is what I'm tracing out with my ruler. Then it stops here. So I'm just going to make it bolder with my marker so that it can be more visible. So after doing this, that is about all you need to do for this corset. I'm just going to add our seam allowance. I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch seam allowance all round, and then I'll cut this out. But before I cut it out, I need to connect the neckline properly. I need to connect the neckline properly. So to do that, I'm going to take the curved side of my ruler and then place it where the neckline is here, and then I'm going to sort of connect it to the armhole. So I'm connecting it to the cup first, and then I'm going to find a way to smoothen it out to the armhole. Make sure you don't have any parts sharp. So this is what I'm working with. This part is not the neckline, so this is the neckline that I'm working with. So now you're going to add half an inch all around that. So before that, let's quickly move to the back. For the back, it's simple. This is the armhole line, this is the waistline, and this is the blouse length. So the same thing we did for the front. I'm going to mark my bust for the back. I'll mark my waist as well, and then I'm going to mark my hip measurement, and then I'll connect them together. So after connecting together on the hem, just like I did for the front, I'm going to come up by 1 inch, and then I'll reconnect that. So now the next thing is to work on the neckline for the armhole. So from my armhole line, I'm just going for the back, sorry, I'm going to come down by 1.5, 1.25 or 1.5 or 1 inch, depending on how low you want it to be, and then I'm going to connect that to my armhole. So this is going to be my back neckline. So the next thing is to create the spacing that we're going to have for the lacing space that you're going to have. So for that, we're going to remove that space so that we'll be able to lace the corset. So depending on how open you want it to be, for me the upper part I want it to be around 4 inches open. So because this is an half scale, I'll divide that into 2, and then I'll have 2 inches. So you can maintain the 2 inches, but if you want it to have a sort of like V shape, you can deduct like half an inch or 1 inch from what you have on the upper part, and then I'm going to connect that. So this spacing part is going to go off, and that is what I'm going to be doing to the back. So also I'm going to add half an inch allowance all around for the back as well, and then we'll cut out. So now I've added the allowances. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So after cutting it, I'm just going to place it on my fabric, and then cut it out on the fabric. So here I'm going to remove the cup area. Okay, so this is what we have for the front. Because it does not have any dart, it's going to be very easy to make. All you just need to do is to create your boning channels and then sew in your bones. This is the back, and this is the front. So for the front, I'm going to cut out the end as well. And then my cup is just going to be inside here. So if you need a yoke, you just remove the upper part for the yoke. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this on my fabric. So I've cut it out now, and this is what I have. So I'm going to detach the pins. For the front, I'm going to cut it on fold, of course. So when I detach my pin, this is what it looks like. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my channels for the bone. So you can put as many bone as you want, but let me just show you what I'm going to be doing on the pattern. So I'm going to have one at the center here, and then on the sides I'm just going to have maybe 3 or 4. So one is going to run from under the cup like this, so it can be straight, but you can also slant it. You can also measure how you want it to be. I'm just eyeballing this, so I'm going to have one here. So just beside that I can place another one. I just measure maybe 1 inch, and then you can place another one if you want. You can also place another one by this side. So just apply your bone anyhow you want it. I'm going to do the same thing for the back as well. So this is the back. When I remove the pattern for the back, this is what I have for the back. So for my bone for the back as well, remember we're going to have a lacing bar at the back, and this fabric cannot be used for the lacing bar. It simply cannot carry the eyelets for all the lacing that we want to do there. So what I'm going to do is to remove that part that I'm going to be using for my lacing bar from this, and then I'm going to replace it with the crepe fabric. I can do that on my pattern, but I don't want us to get confused, so I want to be doing it step by step. When I get to that part, I'm going to do it. So here on my pattern, I'm going to remove what I will be using for my lacing bar. So depending on what you want to use and the size of your bone. So let's say I'm using 2 inches for my lacing bar. It means I'm going to, from my center back here, I'm going to mark out that 2 inches for the lacing bar, and then I'll remove it and then replace it back with my crepe fabric, which is going to be of course stronger. So from there now you can now add your boning channels. So like I said, I'm just going to add maybe 2 or 3 to the back. I'll have one there, and then I'm going to have another one there. Then when I join the front and back together by the side, I'm going to use another one to cover up the seam allowance that I have there. So now I'm going to take this to my sewing machine now and start adding my boning. Like I said, I'm using a ready bone, so I'm just going to sew it on it. If you are working with a plastic bone, you may need to create your boning channels separately, and then you will be able to insert your bones to it. But this I can sew this directly on the bone. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this with my crepe fabric, and then I'll start sewing it to the channels, that the lines that I'm going to mark on this. Okay, so the next video that we're going to upload is going to be the sewing of this corset. So I'm going to be uploading this after uploading the cutting, so you can stay tuned to that. That's the next video you are going to see. But this is what it looks like after sewing it. This is what the inside looks like. You can see how neat it is. So I'm going to be taking you through how I was able to achieve this in the next video. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.